We're returning now to part 2 of how to write a peer review. In an earlier module, we looked at the general structure of your peer review, and as you know, it should look like an inverted pyramid. We covered point 1, how you summarize the research and give your overall impression of the research. Now we're on section 2, discussion of specific areas for improvement. As suggested in this PLOS paper, it's helpful to divide this section into 2 parts, one for major issues and one for minor issues. Within each section, you can talk about the biggest issues first, and then systematically go figure by figure or claim by claim. You want to number each item so that the points are easy to follow. This is very important. Refer to specific lines, pages, sections, or figure and table numbers so that the authors and editors know exactly what you're talking about. In this article, they then go on to describe what are major versus minor issues. So, for instance, they suggest for minor issues that would be missing references, technical clarifications, typos, spelling, grammar. It's very important, however, that when you submit a paper for potential publication, that you have proofread this paper and ideally also had others proofread the paper. If a reviewer sees or is asked to read a manuscript and it is full of spelling and grammar issues and typos, one will begin to question whether the study itself was full of small errors. So ideally, no minor issues should really be seen in your paper. That is so important. Major issues would consist of the essential points that authors need to address before the manuscript can proceed. So, for instance, you may have to conduct an additional study, or you may need to conduct additional analyses. That will probably be more common. In the third section, this is where you address any other points and confidential comments for the editors. So there may be cases where you want to share information with the editors that you do not necessarily want to communicate to the authors. Do not use this space to critique the manuscript, since comments entered here will not be passed along to authors. You'll see that different journals have different requirements. You are also able to get the outline, as you see here, by clicking here, and I've given you the information on where to find this. You can click here to get a template. I'll click for you, and you'll see the general peer review template, and it will tell you exactly how to conduct your review. If you are a graduate student, it's a wonderful opportunity. If you're a mentor, you could ask your mentor if you're able to assist them in completing a peer review. It's a great opportunity and way to learn about the field. Reviewing papers is one of the major aspects of research in academia. So when you submit a paper, peers need to review it for you. Here in this article, they're reviewing for us some before and after sample review comments. So, for instance, this is very helpful. Before, this is what a reviewer perhaps wrote before taking into account the tips in this article. They wrote, "The authors appear to have no idea what they are talking about. I don't think they have read any of the literature on this topic. How would you feel if you received a review like that? But it is not uncommon. Now, after taking these tips into consideration, they write, the study fails to address how the findings relate to previous research in the area. The authors should rewrite their introduction and discussion to reference the related literature, especially recently published work such as Darwin et al. In some cases, what you may encounter is that perhaps your paper went to a reviewer who works in a similar field, and maybe that reviewer didn't see their groundbreaking research cited in the manuscript, and perhaps they're even a little bit annoyed. So for various reasons, it's important to really know the literature and to cite the relevant literature, and don't act as if you're the first person ever to address these questions. It's much better to give credit where credit is due. Let me give you another example of the before and after. Before, the writing is so bad, it's practically unreadable. I could barely bring myself to finish it. After, while the study appears to be sound, the language is unclear, making it difficult to follow. I advise the authors work with a writing coach or copy editor to improve the flow and readability of the text. So, they go on here and provide many other examples, and I would like you to take time to read this article. In addition, I have given you an assignment that we're going to work on together on Blackboard.